Hi, this is Pavel with another Visual Basic exercise. This one is from chapter 6, exercise 4. We are going to calculate depreciation of an item. The assignment says, for tax purposes, an item may be depreciated over a period of several years, n. In other words, n represents years. With the straight line method of depreciation, each year, the item depreciates 1/n of the original value. Now, with the double declining method of depreciation, each year the item depreciates by 2/n of its value at the beginning of the year, and in the final year, it depreciates by the remaining of the value. All right, so we are going to write a program that performs a request a description of the item, the year of purchase, the cost of item, the number of years to be depreciated, which is the estimated life of the product, and the method of depreciation. And the method of depreciation should be chosen by a click on one of the two buttons, and we will display a year-by-year depreciation. So I have already finished the form. Let me just organize it a little better. So we have text boxes, one where we will type the item name, the cost of the item, the year of the purchase, and the estimated life. So it could be, for example, I purchased it in 2012, and estimated life is, I don't know, 5 years or whatever. We have two buttons. One that will calculate the straight line method of depreciation, and the other one the double declining method. And we have our list box, which will where we will output the depreciation year by year. Alright, so let's get coding. I'm going to create a few variables. These will be form level variables because they will be used for both of these buttons. So I want to have access to them from anywhere in this class. So it's going to be a dim item, it's going to be a string, and initialize to 0 to empty. Dim I don't know, purchase year, and it's gonna be an integer. So this is the year when we purchased the item, for example 2012, 13, 14 or so forth. And we have cost as double. That's the actual initial cost of the item, or the buying price. And we have a number of years as integer. This is the estimated life of the product. Now I don't need anything with the form load, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the straight line and straight line method. And this one is going to call. Alright, first we need some input. Now both the buttons will use the same input, so I can create a function, call it input. So let me just do that. It's actually going to be not a function, but let's make it a sub because it's not going to return anything. And I'll call it input. And we will initialize the variable. So our item will equal to whatever is in text item.text. Our purchase year will equal, now this is an integer, so we need to convert it to integer, and it's going to be the text year.text. And we have our cost, which is a double, so we convert it to double, and that's our text cost. And finally we have our number of years, which is an integer, so again converting to integer, so it's gonna be our text of number of years, and which I call it life because it's the estimated life. So these are variables. This basically are text boxes. Now we have value. So now when we click a straight line button, the depreciation, we will call this sub first because we need to, initialize we have initialized the variables, so we need to have access to them, to the current values. Now the way I'm going to do this, I'm thinking maybe I can create another function or a sub that will simply show everything again, because it's going to be used for both clicks. So it will fill the list box with the final output. So I'm going to create a sub, and I'll call it private sub, and show depreciation. All right, and so over here we initialize the items, and now I can call and perform the calculations directly in the show depreciation. That's because we will have to determine what kind of depreciation are we using, the first or the second method. So again, I will simply call the whole function show depreciation, or the sub. So first it will call the input with after we enter everything into the text boxes. The second is click it will perform whatever we will code in the show depreciation sub. And similarly we'll do the same for the double click, the double decline. Let me just copy paste it right here so it's kind of organized. And once again we will call the input, and we will show the depreciation, so show depreciation, and the whole logic will be done in this sub show depreciation. Now before we when we do the output, we need some kind of like a headings, some kind of information about what we are outputting, and that's gonna be stable or the same basically for either of these methods. So I'm going to first output some kind of headings, and I will simply do list output dot add items dot add, and I don't know, call it description, and I will add the item to it. So this will be the description of the item. So in the book it was the way they have it as a sample says, for example, description and item, it would be the name of the item, which is, let's say, computer in the example the book offers. So our next one, items.add, and we will add year. This is basically just to output the information about the product, but before we output any the year by year depreciation. So year of purchase, think of this like an invoice. Basically output all the information, and it's going to be the year or purchase year, and we will do output items dot add, and we will add cost, and that's going to be our cost, but we'll do it to string because this is going to be converted to currency with 2 decimal places. Okay, so that's in other words, it will output the word cost and then the dollar value. And finally we will do the output.items.add, and that's gonna be the estimated life, and that's actually the number of years variable that we have. Number, oh, did I call it something else? Num of years. All right, so num of years. So this is a header for the output, and now we are going to output what method we are using. Now that will depend on what button we click. So we can create a variable that will kind of determine which of the buttons was clicked, and let's do that. And if and it's going to be, well, actually let me just do the button. I'll just call it over here dim. I'll call it method used, and it's going to be an integer. And over here, before I call the show depreciation, I will simply do the method used equals, this is the double one, so it's gonna be 2, and over here the straight line depreciation will be method used equals 1. So over here, if our method used equals 1, then this is the straight line method, so we can output a method to be a straight line. So we can do something like list output dot items dot add method used, and over here it's going, we will actually over here we will simply do straight line method, that's what I call it. And if else, in other words, if the method used is not 1, then it's 2, because it can be only 1 or 2. That's what we initialize it to. And we will do the other one, which is the items.add and the method used, and they call it a double declining method. All right, so again, when we click the straight line, when we click this button, the method used is initialized to 1. If we click this other one, it is initialized to 2. So this way we know which method we are using. This is just for the, again, just to output something directly to our list box. This is not used really for the calculation itself. And at the end, I will do just output one empty line, items.add empty line. Okay, so that's our header, and now let's do the actual calculations. So we need some variables. I will do depreciation, and it's gonna be as double. That's going to be the first one was straight line as double, and the second one was I'm not sure if you're gonna even need that. Dim. I will do the total depreciation as double, and I think that might be also now. You know what? Actually, before we do anything here, I will clear whatever was in the list box before. This way we can, we don't have to quit the program or just adding the output to the list box. We will clear it, click the button, clear it, click the second button, and so forth. So we will do list output item items dot clear, not cast but clear, and then we will add our headers. But anyway, back to our calculations. Now once again we need to define what method we are using. So now we are going to use, over here we use the method used just to display the the output. Over here we are using the same statement, the same if statement, but this time we are going to use it to kind of find out which method we are actually going to use for the calculation. So if the method used is one, that's the straight line method, then we can start calculating the straight line variable. So our straight line equals, now the formula for that is 1/n of the original value. So that's basically what that means is 1 over the number of years and times the value. And that's all there is to to the calculation of the straight line cost, not the value. Alright, so that's all there is to it to calculate the straight line. This was very simple. Now we can start calculating the double declining method, and remember that one is calculated differently. That one is calculated as the 2/n of its value at the beginning of that year, and in the final year it is depreciated by its value at the beginning of the year. So it's a little financial education, I guess, but all right, let's try to figure it out. So the one thing we need to do, and do a for loop. Now before I move any further, total depreciation, I initialize it to 0, and I will initialize all of these to 0 just so I can perform the calculations. So for I as integer equals 1, we start 1 because this is the year 1. In fact, you know what, let me call this a year as a 1 to number of years. So year 1 to, let's say, 5 years, we're going to be looping. And now remember, we have to find out if this is a final year or any other year before that. So if our year does not equal the number of years, the number of years is the final year. In other words, it would be 1 through 5, and 5 is the final year. So if this is not the final year, in our case, for example, if this is not the year 5, then we're going to do the calculations, and we're going to do it differently for the straight line or the double depreciation. So if, once again, we're going to do the method used equals 1, then the depreciation, if this is not the final year, so the depreciation will equal to our straight line that we calculated over here. Otherwise, if this is not the, okay, so this is the straight line depreciation, but if this is the double depreciation, then our depreciation will equal, and the formula for that would be 2 divided by the number of years multiplied by cost. All right, and So again, we are looping through all the years and we are figuring out, but we do it differently for whether it is the straight line or whether it's the double line depreciation. So, but for both of these, if this is the end of the if this is the last year, then our depreciation will equal the cost. It's not equal the cost; it's the remaining cost. So what I'm going to do, you know, that I need a variable for that. I'm going to do over here another variable, and I'll just call it I don't know, I'll call it value as double, and this will be basically serving as the remaining cost. So over here it will be value, but we have to actually adjust the whole formula a little bit. Since we are looping, the cost is the same thing, but what we are not calculating, the cost is the beginning price. Let's say we buy the computer for $5,000, but each year the actual value of the computer goes down. So we don't calculate the cost, we actually calculate it from the remaining value. And okay, so I think that would be all. So let me just make sure that yeah, this is the value, the remaining value that keeps changing over time. So actually over here the value, I'm sorry, doesn't equal 0, can't equal 0. The value at the beginning equals the cost, but then it keeps changing. So we have our for loop, and now our total depreciation, which we have to actually do still within the loop. Our total depreciation, we will add the actual depreciation to it that we just calculated. For each loop we will add the depreciation of the year into our total depreciation. Okay, so and after that we output the data. So our list output that items that add, and we will do value at the beginning of the year, and we will add it to it. We will simply say is it's the value. Again, this is the depreciated value year by year, and we'll do it to string like we did before, because it's gonna be a currency with 2 decimal places. So the value at the beginning of the year. Now we will do items that add the amount depreciate the amount of depreciation for the year, and that's going to be the depreciation, and we'll do it once again to string, because this is all in currencies. And finally we will do, oops, I mean it's the period, it's items that add. We will do the total depreciation at the end of the year, and it's going to be the total depreciation, and to string, of course, because again it's a currency. All right, so that after that we can again add an empty line so we can get the screen ready for the next year. Now remember, the value is the changes year by year, so we have to reflect that, and our value at the end of the loop will equal will be less of depreciation. Now, so the original value equals the original cost, and then at the end we will deduct depreciation to it year by year. Alright, so this might be actually the whole thing. Let me see if we can run this. I'll get the sample data from the book. Let's see if it's gonna work. So it's a computer. It's $1,500. It was supposed to be purchased in 2012 and for 5 years. So if we click straight line, let me compare the data. So we have our headings, which is it says it's a straight line, it's 5 years, so it just basically repeats what's in the text boxes. And let me see, so in 2012 it's $1,500, $300 and $300, so that is correct. $1,200, $300 and $600, so that is correct, and I cannot see the rest of the data. It's just a screenshot in the book, but it seems to be working. And as you can see, the amount depreciation for the year is being deducted. The value at the beginning is $1,200, which is $1,500 minus $300. The next one is $1,200 minus $300, which is $900. Then the next one is $600, then $300, and it seems, and it goes down up to the final, which is the original price. So if I click double decline, the screen should clear and double decline should be printed, and it is. And you can see the data is different, but again, it's 1,500 minus 600 is 900, 900 minus 360 is 540, which is the beginning balance of the next year, and at the end we have the $1,500, which is the original cost. So this seems to be working, but I noticed that what I want us to do, it should say some in the book. It says value at the beginning of 2012. In other words, it actually prints the year, and it also prints the amount of depreciation during 2012. In other words, it actually prints the year and the total depreciation at the end of the year 2012. So we have to add the year to our output, and that's an easy thing to do. When we come over here, I will do to calculate the current year, which we start with the purchase year. We will add the index, the year that we are using for the loop, but we deduct 1, and that should give us the year by year, for within the loop. So I can just copy paste this, because this is the same for all of this. So let me run it again. So now when I do computer again, it was $1,500, 2012, and 5 years. So now it says 2012, 2013, 2015 and 2016, but I need some space there, of course. It's kind of crammed together. So over here I will add a space like that, and I will copy paste it to the other 2 lines over here too. And okay, let's try again. This is more of a formatting problem than the logic. The logic seems to be working fine. And 5. So you got it 2012, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, and if I do double decline, it's the same thing because it's using the same output. Okay, so this should be the whole exercise. Again, we are declaring the variables on form level because we are using them throughout all the methods and subs. We created our input method because it's being used for both clicks on the straight line and double decline. We created a special variable called method used, which is initialized to 1 when we use in straight line, and when it's initialized to 2 when we use in double decline. And then we call the show depreciation method, which basically does all the calculation. At the beginning, we will simply prepare the output, and we will output the information basically from the text boxes. And then over here we go into the actual calculations. Over here if we are using a straight line, if method use is 1, then we will initialize our straight line variable to the 1/n of the costs, which is 1 divided by number of years times the cost. Now we don't need to do that for the double decline because that is being actually performed within the loop. This is a straight line. It doesn't loop through the year. It's constant. For double decline, it changes year by year. That's why we need to do it in the loop. So we go into our for loop as many times as the number of years, which is the expected life of the product. And we are again figuring out if this is the last year that we are calculating. If it is not, then we will find out which method we are using and then calculate the year with an appropriate condition. Now again, we already calculated straight line, which is the same for all the years, so it will simply always display this formula or the result of the formula. If we are using the double decline, we are using the double variable value, which changes with each iteration of the loop. So this value will be changing with each iteration. Now if this is the final year for both methods, whether we're using the straight or the double decline, the depreciation simply equals the whatever is left, which is the value. Remember, the value at the end of the loop is being we deducted depreciation for the year from it. At the beginning we initialize it to the actual cost, the original cost of the product, and at the end of each year we deduct the depreciation. And here we simply output the data or the cost, the value at the beginning of the year. We are calculating which year it is within the loop. Then we will the amount of depreciation of the year, again the current year we are calculating, and the total depreciation of that year that we are currently looping through. All right, so that's that. Hope that it was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Take care.